You have habits in your marketing that you're doing right now that are actually holding you back from getting to the next level that you want to be with your marketing and with your business. So in this video, I wanted to talk about what those things are tangibly and like how we can reshift them and change what we're doing with them so that we don't stay stuck in those habits, but we instead move forward and it allows us to grow our business a lot faster. All right, the first one I wanted to mention here is that you are the bottleneck for all of your content. Like in order for a piece of content or marketing to happen in your business, does it either have to be something that you physically create or does it have to be something that your eyes have to be on before it goes out? And if the answer is yes to literally everything going out there for your marketing, we want to rethink that a little bit, okay? We want to think about how can we structure things so that we are creating really intentional pieces of content. So yes, that you, your brand voice, your leadership is still infused into your content, but then that your team can then take and repurpose it into other pieces of content without you having to be the person to approve it or actually create it yourself. And really what this boils down to is having a long-term, long-form approach to your marketing. So you're creating like a long-form piece of content every single week that then your team or an assistant can take and turn that into other pieces of content for your brand. So for example, I have one ongoing team member in my brand that helps me on the back end of things. And she really takes the YouTube videos that we create whenever I'm running the podcast episodes that I create, and she turns those into things like blog posts, Instagram posts, like feed content, Instagram stories. She turns it into newsletters to our email list. And we have systems set up on the back end to even make that process really fast, like custom GPTs with AI or even just frameworks, systems, workflows, so that she knows like, hey, like here's the Canva template for when we have new YouTube videos to create Instagram stories from. Or hey, here's like the custom GPT that Steph created and I can use that to create blog posts off these YouTube videos, right? And so really having those things in place is going to allow you to show up in more places, to get your reach out a little bit more across the board on different platforms, but not having to be the one to like actually write every single post and have your eyes on literally every piece of content that goes out before it goes out, right? And part of this comes back to being willing to let go of control. At the end of the day, yes, it's our businesses and they kind of feel like our babies sometimes, right? Like they feel like something that you want to do everything yourself. You want it to be perfect or you want it to look a certain way, but at the end of the day, that's not going to get you where you want to go, especially if you're looking to grow to six figures, multi six figures, and even beyond that. You have to learn to let go of control. And yes, it's going to take a little bit more work up front to teach someone that or to set up those systems. But once you do, the idea is you can let go and let someone else come in and help with those different things so it's not all on you anymore. And then this really leads me to my second point, and it's that your marketing is pretty fragmented. And when you go to create a new piece of content, you're always starting from scratch. And you really want to be thinking about like when you look at all the business owners online who are absolutely crushing it, who are scaling their businesses, pretty much every single one has some sort of long form strategy. Like it is so consistent across the board how business owners who have a personal brand, who are scaling an online business, they have a foundational piece of content they're creating, whether it's a podcast or YouTube. Those are two popular ones. And then they're taking that and turning it into other pieces of content. So again, even like working smarter and not harder. It's like when you go to make an Instagram post, not every single time you're thinking from scratch, okay, what reel should I make today? What should it be about? What should the call to action be? Like you have some ideas already in place from that long form content that you've already created. Or when you go to create an email for your newsletter, you can repurpose, for example, Instagram story slides or vice versa. You write a great email and you turn that into Instagram story slides. So thinking about how you can do a lot more repurposing, whether it's like taking that long form content, turning it into short form pieces of content, or even repurposing ideas that worked really well on different platforms and how you can go back to those ideas. And if you want an example of what this looks like as far as like taking a piece of content or what it looks like to repurpose it to other pieces of content, you can actually download a free sample Evergreen Content Calendar that I have created. So we'll have a link to that below in the description if you want to check it out. Okay, the third thing here that I see a lot of business owners being held back with their marketing, and this is really a belief that you believe that your momentum in your business is determined by how good your content is or by how much time you spend on it. and you believe that there's no way you can actually get help with your marketing or have someone help execute these things for you and still have your business grow and gain momentum, and that you truly are thinking to yourself like, well, I see, the huge accounts on Instagram or the huge brands, and it looks like they're creating every single piece of content. They're posting on stories all day long. They're posting on their feed. They have a super engaged audience. But one thing that I've even had to learn just in the past year and really undo with my mindset is that your Instagram engagement, your Instagram following size, how good your content is on Instagram or any other platform for that matter, is not in direct correlation with how successful your business is. I have so many incredible, successful friends who are business owners, who have incredible communities, who have built million-dollar businesses, who do not have a large viral Instagram following, okay? And they're not the only ones creating their content. They're not the only ones who are helping to get their marketing out there into the world. They are good at delegating, at getting help with that, and doing it in a way that, yes, still feels very true to them and their brand and what they want to share in their marketing. They still have leadership and guidance over that, but they're not the only ones executing. We can't do it all. And I think there's this misconception that okay, if I just show up way more on Instagram, if I make sure my content is really, really, really good, I spend a lot of time on it, that's gonna get me to where I wanna go. And I'm just here to tell you, as someone who's been in business for 10 years, that is definitely not the case. And so I grew an Instagram account first, if you're not familiar. I grew an Instagram account to 100,000 followers, and in doing so, my business revenue did not necessarily grow alongside of that. My business revenue grew as a result of the things I was doing in my business, the strategies I was implementing on the back end. And yes, visibility was one piece of that, but honestly, most of my visibility for what you're seeing here, my education, coaching-based business, came from YouTube. It didn't come from Instagram. And so yes, Instagram is a great place to connect with my audience, to nurture my audience, to show up with my personal brand. All those things are so, so important. So don't get me wrong, those are still great things to be doing for your brand. But there's this misconception that Instagram is the only way, or it's the best way, and that you just have to have really, really, really good content, and then that's going to get you the visibility you need to grow a business. And at the end of the day, I'm also just not a huge fan of focusing or relying on one platform for all of your growth. It doesn't make sense to only rely on one bucket of marketing in order to make everything take off for you. And so diversifying where people are finding you from, going all in on one platform to begin with, then over time adding in more platforms, which again, going back to the repurposing, the delegating things off, not being the bottleneck of all of your content, that's gonna help you to just have different ways that people find you. So you're not just relying on one thing. And going back to those other points as well, with this, you're not just relying on you being the person who shows up and makes really good content to have a super engaged viral following. This is coming from someone who I've had that. I had a very engaged following, 100,000 followers on Instagram. I grew it more as a motherhood influencer account, and then kind of realized that just was not for me. And I realized at the end of the day, it wasn't really growing my business. It was growing my personal brand, which is still amazing. Don't get me wrong, but it wasn't actually growing my sales. And my business has continued to make more money ever since that year. My income has not dropped as a result of not continuing to grow that account. I kind of dropped growing that account in 2023. So it's been about 2 years now of just not posting on that account. And so it's kind of crazy to think wow, I still have this business that continues to grow and thrive. And it's because I didn't rely on Instagram or having this engaged following. Yes, Instagram can be a great way to grow your business, but I really believe it shouldn't be the only way and the only thing that you rely on. I think so often we get caught up in being having a popular or super engaged account, and it just doesn't necessarily translate to money in your business. I know so many business owners that have a smaller following that are absolutely crushing it. They serve their people so, so well. So don't get caught up in that. Don't get caught up in this belief oh, maybe I need to just focus more on having really good content, or maybe I just need to go back to I need to spend more time on my content. That's not necessarily true. And make sure that there can be seasons you go all in on that. There can be seasons where you are putting more of your time and effort into your content and you want to infuse more of yourself into it. And that is, I will always be an advocate of that for the main purpose of building a personal brand. Like building a personal brand and trust with people so that you have a community that sticks with you no matter what has been one of the best things I've done. I have people in my audience who have been here since year one when I was a photographer 10 years ago. Like that's pretty insane. That's only happened because I've built a personal brand. So there is something to that. However, I think that we sometimes get caught up in this belief that however good or popular or viral or engaging our content for our personal brand is and that we are growing is going to be in direct correlation with how our business grows. That's just not necessarily the case. Okay, the fourth thing that I have actually learned a lot in just this year in 2025, and something that I'm taking with me and that I am learning and implementing in my own business right now, is the importance of going deep and not wide, okay? I think especially starting out, we think, oh, if I just like attract a huge audience, of course I'm gonna grow my business, of course I'm gonna make sales. And yes, there is something to audience growth that can be so impactful, again, like we were just talking about. However, what I have realized is just how incredibly powerful and honestly fulfilling for you as a creator and business owner is to go deep with a certain type of person, okay? And what I mean by that can be really niching down to a topic that you're really passionate about and that you want to help and serve people on, but also niching down on who is the type of person that you want to speak to with your marketing. And I think so often we think, okay, so like let's put it first into context with my business and like as an example to help illustrate this. I have in 2025 really decided to go all in on focusing more on YouTube growth and YouTube marketing for business owners. And so back in 2024, I was a little more focused on like your overarching content marketing system. That was like my niche, if you will. And then moving into 2025, I decided to bring it in a little bit and bring the focus to just YouTube. Now, within that, there are a lot of different people I could be talking to try to essentially sell to them, right? But help people within that topic of YouTube. I could try to speak to people who aren't even considering YouTube, but try to convince them of doing YouTube. I get to talk to people who are thinking about doing YouTube, but not really sure, and they're still pretty new and starting out in their business, right? Maybe haven't even started a business. I could speak to people who are already sold on YouTube and just are looking for the right person to jump in with when it comes to YouTube marketing. That person is going to be gold, right? I could speak to someone who is already on YouTube and wants more support to go more advanced with what they're already doing with YouTube. There's also the person that is already on YouTube and crushing it, but wants more help on like the back end and sales and systems and things like that for their business from their channel. There's so many different like types of people, and it's kind of a spectrum, right? There's people who are going to be a little bit more beginner, right? And there's going to be people who are more advanced. And it's almost like this sliding scale of like, where on that do you want to speak to? And a lot of times when we're going really wide, when we're trying to attract a lot of people, there's a lot more people in the like beginner section, right? And it starts to taper off the more like advanced, if you will, that you go. And there's no right or wrong here, but I found that a lot of times for me in the past, and what I see a lot of business owners doing, is they're like, well, I talk about YouTube, so I'm gonna speak to every single person on this sliding scale. Like I'm gonna speak to the beginner, the intermediate, the advanced, every single person possible about, and talk about everything possible with YouTube. So I'm gonna talk about like convincing people why to do YouTube. I'm gonna talk about convincing people to start their channel right now. I'm gonna talk to the person who's already on YouTube and how to make it better. I'm gonna talk to the person who's already crushing it on YouTube and how to increase their conversions. Like that's a lot, like those people are in such different places. And honestly, it makes your marketing look a little bit scattered because you're speaking to so many different people, right? And there can be, at least I believe, you can have offers that do speak to slightly different segments of your audience. It doesn't all have to be like just this one specific sliver of a person and that's all you speak to in your messaging, but you will go so much deeper, faster, and grow faster by speaking to one segment of your audience. With that, it has challenged me to realize that I'm not going to be for everyone anymore in my audience. Like there's going to be this section of my audience that I am no longer going to be speaking to. I'm not going to be trying to convince someone who's thinking about starting a business that they need to do YouTube first. I don't even think that makes any sense. So like, why would I try to convince them to do that? Or someone who's even just a year in and still getting their footing, like YouTube is probably not going to be the best place for them to start or to jump into. And so I'm not spending my time in my marketing talking to those people and trying to convince them of evergreen marketing, trying to convince them or sell them on the idea of investing themselves. I'm not convincing them on evergreen content. I'm not educating them on what evergreen content is, because the person I'm speaking to is a little bit more over here. They know what evergreen is. They know what long form is. They understand how powerful it is. And yes, while those reminders can be really helpful and just like refreshers of why that type of marketing is important, I'm not spending the bulk of my marketing on that. I'm talking to them, the person who's already convinced of that, and saying, hey, now here's where we go from here, and jumping into YouTube and what you need to know and why it's the right time right now. So the takeaway from this is really thinking about, especially for someone who's already grown somewhat of an audience, is thinking about like, do you want to go to the direction of speaking, like who are you speaking to in your audience, and recognizing that not everyone's going to be a fit, and that's okay. And that's actually a really, really good thing. And it's going to help grow your business faster because you're speaking to one portion of a type of person, right? And the person in your messaging and your marketing, like it's all geared for that person. And for me, it's been a challenge of being willing to let go and realize that I'm not going to be for everyone anymore. So if that resonated with you, I do want to also invite you into my free private podcast. This is actually pretty new. I just recently created, called Evergreen Pregame. This is a podcast for if you're that person who you want to learn a little bit more about setting up the things we've talked about in this video as far as evergreen marketing, going all in with that, content that can be repurposed, and really taking it to the next level with your marketing. You're going to absolutely love this free private podcast. It's to help you discover what to do to set yourself up for lasting success whenever you do decide to jump into that evergreen long form marketing system. Specifically, we're talking about like YouTube, email marketing, and funnels, okay? So if you have interest in tuning into that, link will also be below in the description along with that sample Evergreen Content Calendar. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I seriously am so grateful for each and every one of you. If you have any questions about anything we chatted about in this video, any thoughts, anything that resonated, feel free. You're more than welcome to drop a comment down below. You're also welcome to DM me on Instagram at Stephanie Lynn Case. I love chatting with you guys in the DMs, and I would love to chat more there. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.